It's alright.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Yo guys, what is up? Moxsy here in our Borderlands 3 video, and today I have Deathwish Amara. Now, I have been working on this build longer than I've worked on most other builds. This took a really long time to figure out, and it is a Deathless Amara build. I didn't have high hopes for a Deathless Amara build. When you think about Deathless Amara, it shouldn't work, but what we achieved here is a incredibly strong build that is almost unkillable. It's really wild. It did true takedown cartel event, only going down like once, which is insane, and I'm excited to share it with you guys. So with that, let's get right into the video. Alright guys, so showing on screen for you right now should be the skill tree for Deathwish Amara. Now it looks a little weird, and that's primarily because we don't actually need sustainment, and we don't need any sources of healing because we are a deathless build, and we'll be going over how we stay alive. But that is the skill tree. Before we get into the nitty gritty of it, we're going to talk about our weapons and our gear. Now, we're using the while under 50% health, deal 150 bonus radiation damage. I've used this on a flak build, 5G flak. I've used it on a Moze build, Sea Monster Moze, and I've used it on Half-Life Zane. It is a extremely strong anointment. But when you give it to the Queen of Elemental damage, it gets insane. The damage that we can put out with this build is scary, and we still are maintaining a lot of survivability. Now, our survivability is being maintained by the Transformer and the Spiritual Driver. Now, when we have shock damage on our action skill, we can dot ourselves and heal our Transformer. Now, this gives us a lot of health regen back, and when we go into Anima, it's going to increase the damage of that dot, so we're going to get more heals from it. This is our first way of staying alive with this Deathless build. That, in conjunction with the amount of time that we can spam ties that bind and murder enemies, in addition to the perk Shield Reboot, killing enemy triggers shield regeneration. Now with ties that bind, we're going to be able to kill a ton of enemies, and because we're using Avatar, we are spamming ties that bind. This build plays like Ricochet Witch, but you're actually going to be using your action skill all the time. Even with things like the recursion, you're going to want to be always spamming your action skill, and we're going to get a ton of damage because we're using things like Laid Bare and Wrath. And Transcend. So using your action skill is super important here. With Ties That Bind, we're going to kill a lot of enemies and get a ton of shield regeneration, which is sick. And we're also always going to be passively regenerating our Transformer. Now, if that doesn't sound like it could be enough shield regeneration, we have one more trick up our sleeve, and it is a crazy trick. This allows you to run this build without ever worrying about going down, and that is Pool Party. Now, Pool Party is a new modifier that when enemies drop corrosive shock or incendiary, or enemies drop corrosive shock and incendiary pools, when their armor, shields, or health are depleted, come on in, the water's fine. Now, because we're using things like the reflux, like the recursion, like the Chaosin, with ties that bind, we're going to be killing a ton of enemies very quickly, which will drop these pools of shock, fire, and corrosive on the ground. Now, when we're wearing a Transformer and we walk over Pool Party shock, it will instantly heal our Transformer. However, it's going to heal our Transformer even more with Anima. Now, Anima, a lot of people don't take Anima in some of their Amara builds because it is going to increase the self-dot damage that you do if you get ignited by a barrel or if you get ignited by Flores lava. However, it works extremely well in this case because it's going to instantly recharge our Transformer with 5 out of 5 into Anima when we walk over that shock dot. And if, in case you're wondering, like, oh, but Moxsy will also take more damage from the fire and corrosive, you can walk on all of them, and the shock recharge from the Transformer will overpower the damage you're taking from the fire and corrosive, meaning when you're running this build, you're basically unkillable because your shield is going to be instant regenning. That is how we achieve so much survivability. That is how you can run the true takedown with Cartel Event on and never worry about going down. It is absolutely crazy. Now, on top of that, we're getting 150% bonus radiation damage, which is crazy. But because we've got not only an elemental projector that we're wearing with our Deathless, which is going to give us increased fire, shock, or corrosive damage, because we're going to be getting dotted by fire, shock, and corrosive damage. We're going to be getting all these different elemental boosts, and we're using a shock dot, so we're going to get bonus radiation damage with the elemental projector. If you've got fire, for example, or corrosive on your other ASCs, those are also going to be getting boosted by the elemental projector, which is kind of like the conflux trick. Basically, we're going to be able to do a ton of different elemental damage boosted by the elemental projector without needing conflux, which allows this build to hit extremely hard. Not only that, but with the driver, with our points into mindfulness, we are going to be moving extremely quickly, which allows us to scale our movement speed off of our damage and achieve the most damage basically possible with this build. It is really, really crazy. Now, I tried this build with this stopgap on action skill start. Activate any effects that trigger on shield breaker fill. This worked nicely, doesn't work as well as the transformer. I used the big boom blaster for a while, which has a chance to drop a booster that restores shield, grenade, and heavy ammo. That was pretty nice too, but nothing works quite as well as the transformer. Now, you're going to want a transformer with bonus ASE and a grenade with bonus ASE, elemental projector, Deathless. You're looking for boosted rad damage. That's the best thing that you can get on your elemental projector Deathless, because we're always going to be doing radiation damage, so it's just a constant boost. And then a driver with some sort of passives to it. Now, in terms of our skill tree, like I said, Anima for all the dot boosting, Tempest for increased shock damage, which we're always going to be doing some sort of shock damage because we've got Infusion with our shock damage. So you're going to mainly want to be using shock weapons with this build because you're going to be dotted with shock. But if you don't, we got Infusion, so we are going to be doing some sort of shock damage. Dread is going to give us gun damage. We're always spamming Ties That Bind, and I went indiscriminate for the ricochets because when we do have an enemy bound, we're going to get that shared damage plus the ricochets, which is nice. I picked that over Deep Well personally. Now, for Blue Tree, I went Do Harm because we're spamming our Ties That Bind, and it's going to increase the damage that enemies take from Ties That Bind, and it's also going to boost the damage from Remnant, which is very, very nice. Transcend for that critical hit damage. We're spamming it, and because we're using things like Allure, like enemies don't even really hit us that much, so because of that, we want to spam it as much as possible. So cooldown, Ascendant for the bigger Allure radius, Laid Bare for damage increase, and Wrath for that gun damage, all self-explanatory, and Avatar for the double spam of Phase Grasp. Not only do we are able to double spam Phase Grasp, but this build kind of operates a little bit like Transcended Amara because you can double stack Transcend before boss fights to get a crazy amount of critical hit damage, plus you're doing all that elemental damage. Personal Space, we need it. It's a crazy bonus damage. Root to Rise versus Clarity doesn't matter because it doesn't help us. And then we're going Arms Deal. Now, Arms Deal is going to give us splash damage and splash damage reduction. Now, you may be like, why are we going to this tree and not grabbing Forceful Expression? Forceful Expression is more damage when we're matching elements on an enemy, but it is not more damage when we're not matching elements, and we're trying to mainly use splash damage weapons. So, Arms Deal is going to make us more tanky and also give us more damage. And then lastly, Mindfulness, you guys know what it is. Movement speed and damage based on how fast we're moving. This allows us to avoid a lot of damage and also get a lot of damage. It is a great skill. Now, in terms of modifiers, y'all can use whatever you want. The most important thing is Pool Party. I did an M10 True Takedown without Pool Party. It worked just fine. This build doesn't need it, But if you want to truly just not care about what's going on around you, Pool Party makes it very, very easy. In terms of like damage output, genuinely, I think we do the true takedown faster than Ricochet Witch, which is crazy because that's a crazy build, but we have so much damage coming out of this thing, and because we have 150 bonus rad on the recursion, we're just going to get another element from it, which is crazy. By another element, I mean another Ricochet, so that's awesome, awesome, awesome. And yeah, guys, that's it for the build Deathless Amara. I didn't think it was going to work. I didn't think it would be good. Honestly, I didn't have high hopes for it. It's not a great bossing build. Genuinely, if you want to go boss, I would use some of the other Amara builds or Transcended Amara, which I'm going to be bringing out soon. Not the best for bossing, but it is very strong. And if you have one of these, it's hard to say that it's bad at bossing when you can use a Yellow Cake with 150 bonus radiation damage with splash damage increases and movement speed. This will basically one-shot everything in the game, especially on this build. But I'm not basing bossing on Yellow Cake kills because anyone can kill anything with a Yellow Cake, but just wanted you guys to know that this thing is freaking disgusting on this build, especially Amara, especially with Ties That Bind, especially when you got Remnant. It is stupid amounts of damage. So if you guys want to use that, it'll be in the save file, but I just wanted to show that y'all don't need that. Alright guys, I'll catch you in the next one. I hope you enjoyed, hope you learned something new, and take care. Peace!